discussion is going to be on euthanasia, what it is and what it is not. This is a very important issue today because more and more cases are coming before the Supreme Court, and euthanasia is going to be in more state governments and eventually the law of the land if we don't know what it is and know how to fight it. So let's start with what it is not. Euthanasia is not when you have a loved one and the pain, like for instance cancer, deep within the bones in the body. Well, we've been giving the medication and the medication's been helping that. But there comes a time when the choice for that medication may end up being a dose in which that person dies. But that's not the intent. The intent is to relieve the suffering of the person, not to kill the person. There is no intent to kill there. But that could be a result, that the person could die. That is not euthanasia. The second form is when a person is burdened with either cancer or an amputation. We'll take an amputation, for instance. And the person perhaps has diabetes, is going through all kinds of issues with that. But there's amputation of a toe, then a leg, then a knee, and it gets to the point where this is just so burdensome to the person. They say, please, please, please don't do it anymore. Don't cut anything else off. I can't handle this anymore. And they beg that the treatment stop. They just want to go home to the Lord, just naturally go home. At that point in time, we give comfort care. That is not euthanasia. That is the patient themselves saying it. It's not the family saying, I cannot stand to see my dad this way, so yes, go ahead and take the food and water. That is, we'll talk about that later, that's active euthanasia. But this is not. This is the person themselves that are burdened with the pain and the suffering, and they're not expected by God to go on suffering in a treatment that is going nowhere. Not only is not helping, but it could even hinder the life that that person has left. The third issue that is not euthanasia is removing food and water when that food and water will cause either the death of the person or it will cause more pain and suffering to the point where it is doing no good, but it is doing harm. Let me give you an example of that. My own mother, when she was dying, she had her lungs were filling up with fluid, and her kidneys had pretty much were stopping working. Okay, for the kidneys, she needed fluid, but for her lungs, she didn't need fluid. So it kept going back and forth like that until they had to make the decision that they stopped the food and water, keep her comfortable, and it was not 24 hours later that my mom passed away very peacefully in her sleep. Those things are not euthanasia. They are not mercy killing because there's no killing going on. This is that process whereby that person's body has shut down and has said, no more. Now, what it is even more important. One of the things that it is, the main thing, is that it is taking the life of another person intentionally. That intention in taking that life, there's another word for it. It's called murder. There is no other name when you take somebody else's life intentionally. Murder. All right, let's start with one. The first situation is voluntary euthanasia. Now, why are you volunteering? Why are you saying yes to this? Depression is number one, and pain. They're equal. Those things make people want to give up on life. It is too much for them to handle. But if the doctors and the hospital, they take care of the depression through counseling, and they take care of the pain through the medications, usually that person is not interested in dying. But otherwise, they say, I can't do it. Go ahead. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to refuse to take my medicine. So no matter what you do, I'm done. So they're volunteering that euthanasia. The second one is involuntary euthanasia, which is almost the exact opposite. It's you're laying there in the bed and you want to live. Your body's racked with pain or amputation, whatever it is, you want to live. You want to see your family. You want to be with your family. As long as they keep your pain under control, you want to live. But family members begin making a decision and a discussion with the doctors to say that it's too much. My mother is in so much pain. Just if the doctor suggests that we remove the food and water, or we take off the oxygen, or we stop giving her medicine slowly, give her increased medicines for pain so that she will be at peace and she will be laying there without this intense pain. By the time they get finished with you and the explanations that they have, you are willing to say, go ahead. But the person in the bed is not volunteering. It's involuntary euthanasia. And the third one is assisted suicide. This is fastly becoming the law of the land. And there's cases, again, coming before the Supreme Court. This is extremely dangerous. This one is when a person decides, I'm going to die. And they go online. They get all the information on how to do this. They get a doctor to agree. And I'm going to tell you a bizarre story that when this first was happening. In Belgium, a young girl, 19 years of age, a ballerina, fell, broke her toes, so it would be impossible for her ever to dance again. In the state of depression, she asked for assisted suicide. They gave it to her. And this bright, young, 19-year-old died, of course. That is bizarre. Let me tell you another bizarre story. In a town near us where we monitored a program with some youth in the college, they presented a paper. And in that paper, they were talking about suicide parties. People would say, like a grandpa says, I'm done. And I want my doctor. I don't want to suffer anymore. I want the doctor. The doctor has agreed to give him the poison, to give him the pills. He's being assisted. Or to be given a cocktail of drinks. And in this case, it was a grandpa figure. Seemed very well on the film to be able to talk. They have a party. All the family members are brought in. All the friends. They sing the songs. They read poems. After the party was over, it was time for the grandpa to take the drink. And grandpa on film, and we're watching this in a classroom, and we are going, oh my heavens, my dear Jesus, what is happening? That's exactly where we were. And he took it and laid there, and in seconds, he was gone. This is bizarre, more than bizarre. This is, I don't want to say insane, but really, this is a manipulation of the person in feeling that there is no other answer and that their life is not precious to them or to anybody else. Their life is not worth living. That's where they believe and what they believe. Another thing that takes them to that is what's called the quality of life. You know, we believe in the sanctity of life. God made us. He made you. He made me in the image of God. We believe that with all our hearts. And so in that state of belief, God made us and God will take us home. There is no doubt about that in that time. But in the meantime, your life is worth everything to the moment he takes you home. That is the value of life. The other approach in the quality of life is, I can't go and work in my garden anymore. I can't take my walks. I can't go fishing. I'm here by myself. I'm sitting in my chair. I'm all alone. Where does that take us? That's no quality of life, they say. So therefore, they, in one way or another, seek to be euthanized. You know, we are, as a whole, as a society, we're responsible in one way. We become very selfish, very self-centered, where we don't think before we do something or before we don't do it. So in the next editions of these explanations of euthanasia and assisted suicide and divine mercy, we're going to help you to be able to gain control in your own life, in your family's life, over this whole issue of, do we have the right to kill ourselves or to kill another person? And what is the effect of that throughout the family and throughout the world? Thank you. I'm Nan Weber. See you next time.